The execution of Order 66 remains one of the most pivotal and devastating events in the Star Wars galaxy, marking the near-total eradication of the Jedi Order and the rise of the Galactic Empire. But what if the brilliant mind of Yoda, attuned to the intricacies of the Force and its ominous warnings, had foreseen this catastrophic betrayal? If Yoda's vision had granted him clarity regarding the Sith machinations lurking behind Chancellor Palpatine's genial facade, the fate of the galaxy might have taken a profoundly different course. Yoda's insights would have ignited a chain reaction that united the Jedi Order with a singular purpose to preemptively dismantle the Sith threat from its core. The Jedi Council, bound by their oath to safeguard the Republic, would recognize the dire implications of Palpatine's unchecked power. As a result, they would swiftly transition from cautious observation to decisive action. With Yoda's warning ringing clear, the High Council, comprising luminaries like Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker, would assemble the entire Jedi Temple Guard, along with hundreds of skilled Jedi Knights, for a calculated assault on the heart of political manipulation: Palpatine's office. This monumental confrontation would unfold with deliberate precision, reflecting the gravity of the situation. The Jedi would not rush blindly. They would be acutely aware of Palpatine's control over both the Senate and the judicial system. To combat this, the Jedi would engage in a two-pronged offensive. While the main force stormed Palpatine's office to directly address the Sith threat, a simultaneous effort would be mounted in the Senate building to invoke Order 65, the little-known contingency order designed to authorize the removal of a compromised Supreme Chancellor. As Yoda and the High Council led the charge, Anakin Skywalker's presence would add a critical element of unpredictability. At this juncture, Anakin's loyalties would be torn between his trust in the Jedi and his growing bond with Palpatine. Yet, with Yoda's foresight and the combined influence of Obi-Wan and Mace Windu, Anakin might be swayed to recognize the dark manipulation exerted upon him. His inclusion in the assault would serve not only as a symbolic demonstration of his alignment with the Jedi, but also as a decisive shift in his destiny. The potential for redemption would shine through his actions as he joined his mentors in confronting the very figure who sought to exploit his fears. The assault on Palpatine's office would be nothing short of extraordinary. Hundreds of lightsabers igniting in unison, Jedi would surge into the opulent chamber with unparalleled coordination. Palpatine, formidable in his Sith mastery, would unleash a torrent of dark side energy in response, testing the limits of even the most skilled Jedi. Yet, the overwhelming numbers and unity of the Order would present a challenge even for a Dark Lord of the Sith. In such a scenario, Palpatine's carefully orchestrated plans would unravel as his secret identity was exposed not only to the Jedi but also to the galaxy at large. Simultaneously, in the Senate building, another critical battle would unfold. The Jedi's most politically astute members would ensure the successful execution of Order 65. Armed with indisputable evidence of Palpatine's Sith allegiance and his manipulation of the Clone Wars to consolidate power, the Jedi would rally senators to their cause. Palpatine's closest ally, Wilhuff Tarkin, would also be detained as part of the operation, neutralizing one of his key strategists. The sheer scale of this coordinated effort would highlight the Jedi's resolve and their understanding of the Republic's fragility under Sith influence. As the conflict raged in the Senate and Palpatine's office, the galaxy would stand at a crossroads. The Jedi would know that their actions, though justified, would likely be perceived as treason by a populace unaware of the Sith's covert operations. Nevertheless, they would accept this burden, recognizing that their intervention was necessary to preserve the Republic's democratic foundations. Palpatine's capture, or, in the worst-case scenario, his death would be a turning point, stripping the Sith of their figurehead and exposing their manipulations to public scrutiny. The consequences of this alternative timeline would ripple across the galaxy. The Republic, though shaken by the revelation of Palpatine's true identity, would be offered a chance for reform and healing. Anakin, having chosen the path of light, would emerge as a hero who resisted the pull of the dark side, potentially fulfilling his destiny as the chosen one without succumbing to the tragedies of Darth Vader's rise. The Jedi Order, though strained by the events, would endure, their numbers bolstered by the survival of countless members who would otherwise have perished in Order 66. In this scenario, the galaxy would avoid the decades-long tyranny of the Galactic Empire. The Clone Wars, instead of culminating in chaos, would provide a sobering lesson on the dangers of centralized power and the importance of vigilance against corruption. The Jedi, having learned from their mistakes, would likely evolve in their approach, balancing their role as peacekeepers with a renewed focus on humility and adaptability. This bold intervention, however, would not come without challenges. The Senate's fragile unity, disrupted by the revelation of Sith influence, would necessitate a delicate rebuilding process. Regional tensions, exacerbated by years of war, would require careful diplomacy to resolve. The Jedi, despite their victory, would face skepticism and scrutiny from those who viewed their actions as a dangerous overreach. Yet these challenges would pale in comparison to the horrors of the Empire's reign, offering hope for a brighter future. As the Jedi's decisive strike unraveled Palpatine's plans, his capture would be nothing short of monumental. The Dark Lord of the Sith, despite his formidable power, would succumb to the sheer numbers, skill, and coordination of the Jedi. With his Sith identity fully exposed, the Jedi would employ every precaution to neutralize the threat he posed. Central to this strategy would be the use of ancient Mandalorian Force cages, legendary artifacts capable of suppressing even the most potent wielders of the Force. These relics, unearthed from Mandalore's history of conflict with Force users, would serve as the only viable means of containing someone of Palpatine's magnitude. Encased within the unyielding confines of the Force cage, Palpatine's dark influence would be rendered inert. Deprived of his ability to manipulate the Force, the once untouchable figure who orchestrated galactic chaos would be paraded as a captured enemy of the Republic. This symbolic image, Palpatine restrained and powerless, would reverberate across the galaxy, shattering the illusion of his infallibility. It would be the first step in dismantling the myth of his invulnerability and exposing the depths of his deception. The Jedi, understanding the gravity of their actions, would not act in secrecy. Instead, they would bring Palpatine before the entire Senate, initiating an unprecedented and transparent trial. This public judgment would transcend mere politics, becoming a galactic event that united citizens from every corner of the Republic in their outrage and condemnation. In this rare and extraordinary circumstance, the galaxy itself would collectively participate in determining Palpatine's fate. The people of the Republic, weary from years of war and betrayal, would demand justice for the countless lives lost due to his manipulations. Mace Windu, as Master of the Order and one of the Jedi Council's most authoritative voices, would take center stage during the trial. His argument would resonate with uncompromising clarity. Palpatine was not simply a corrupt politician or an opportunist. He was a Sith Lord, an entity who orchestrated the Clone Wars by manipulating both sides, turning allies into enemies and fueling a conflict that devastated the galaxy. This was not a case of political mismanagement, but of deliberate, cold-blooded orchestration of chaos for personal gain. Mace would argue that Palpatine's very existence posed an existential threat to the galaxy, a threat too dangerous to be contained indefinitely. Mace's assertion that Palpatine was too dangerous to be kept alive would not stem from vengeance but from necessity. The Master of the Order would lay bare the reality of Palpatine's influence, explaining how the dark side's corruption had already ensnared institutions such as the Senate, the courts, and the military. Palpatine's death, Mace would argue, was not only a punishment for his crimes, but a preventative measure to safeguard the Republic from the resurgence of his malevolent influence. His unparalleled cunning and knowledge of Sith rituals meant that even imprisoned, Palpatine would remain a threat, capable of sowing discord and undermining any attempt at galactic recovery. The galaxy's leaders and citizens, having witnessed the devastation wrought by the Clone Wars, would find Mace's argument compelling. The evidence of Palpatine's treachery would be overwhelming. The secret orders embedded in the clone army, the calculated manipulations of Anakin Skywalker, and the orchestration of Dooku's separatist movement. Each revelation would further cement the case against him. Senators from systems ravaged by the war would be among the loudest voices calling for his execution, their anger fueled by the realization that their suffering had been engineered to consolidate the power of a single man. This trial would serve as a moment of reckoning for the galaxy. In the face of such incontrovertible evidence and impassioned testimony, the Senate would ultimately reach a verdict. Yet, in this rare instance, the decision would extend beyond the senators themselves. In a gesture of unity and democracy, the Republic would open the vote to the galaxy at large. Citizens from all sectors, united by their shared desire for justice, would cast their votes. The outcome would be overwhelming, a unanimous call for Palpatine's execution. This verdict would carry profound symbolic weight. The galaxy, fractured and battered by years of war, would come together in a collective rejection of tyranny and corruption. Palpatine's death would signify not only the end of the Sith's grip on the Republic, but also a cathartic moment of liberation for its people. The Jedi, despite their pivotal role in bringing him to justice, would ensure that the process adhered to the principles of transparency and fairness, standing as guardians of peace and not as executioners. Palpatine's execution would mark a turning point in galactic history. Unlike the secretive rise of the Empire, this act would occur in full view of the galaxy, reaffirming the Republic's commitment to accountability and justice. It would also serve as a powerful deterrent against future attempts to exploit the Republic's systems for personal gain. For the Jedi, it would represent a vindication of their efforts to protect the galaxy from the insidious threat of the dark side. Tarkin, detained alongside Palpatine as one of his closest allies, would face his own reckoning. Though not a Force user, Tarkin's role in enabling Palpatine's machinations would be laid bare. His support for the Chancellor's consolidation of power, his ruthlessness in military strategy, and his willingness to sacrifice countless lives for the sake of order would leave little doubt of his culpability. Tarkin's trial, while less dramatic than Palpatine's, would nonetheless serve as a crucial step in dismantling the network of enablers that sustained the Sith's rise. In the aftermath of these trials, the Republic would face the daunting task of rebuilding. The Jedi, though triumphant, would not emerge unscathed. Their actions, while necessary, would invite scrutiny and debate about their role in the Republic. Yet their commitment to justice and their willingness to place their lives on the line for the greater good would leave an indelible mark on the galaxy. By preventing Order 66 and exposing the Sith, the Jedi would offer the Republic a chance to reclaim its ideals. The galaxy, united in its desire for peace and justice, would embark on a new chapter of reconciliation and renewal, free from the shadow of the dark side.